And the reason why we call it diaspora, as you know from DJ, that there's so many different Jewish experiences depending on where you're from, when you were raised, the environment you were raised in. So in my case, my grandfather was born in Yemen. My father was born in Israel, and I was born here in America. Before I tell you about my family story, I want to tell you a little bit about the Yemenite Jews. So the Yemenite Jews have some of the oldest Jewish traditions, and we have very distinct DNA. From my research, when the Judeans were exiled from the Levant, they moved down to the south. Before there was Yemen, before there was Saudi Arabia, and they mixed with indigenous southern Arabian tribes. And so we are the product of that, this very ancient Jewish blood and this very ancient Arab blood, and that's what makes me me. And as far as I know, my family lived there from the beginning of time. Now, my grandfather's name is Salim Yaish Karameh. He was born in a very small, tight-knit Jewish community in Taiz, Yemen, and his entire life was devoted to studying Torah. But he didn't just read it, they chanted it, something like... And by the time he was a teenager, I'm told he memorized the Torah, which was very common for the Yemenite Jews. Now, my grandfather, when it was time for him to get married, his parents had a really good idea. He and his older brother would marry my grandmother and her older sister. Things were done very conveniently in Yemen. Now, for most of his life, he lived very peacefully alongside his Muslim Arab neighbors, but he always dreamed of moving to Zion, like Jews all over the diaspora. And his dream became a necessity after there were violent pogroms killing Jewish communities all over Yemen. And so his dream came true in 1949 during Operation Magic Carpet, when 50,000 Yemenite Jews were airlifted on a plane to Israel. And when the Jews in Yemen learned that they would be riding on a plane, many of them believed that they were riding on the wings of an eagle, which is a prophecy given in the Torah. My grandfather moved to Israel around the exact same age that I am now, and I can't quite imagine uprooting my entire life, but he did. Now, when he arrived to Israel, he and many of the Yemenite immigrants moved to immigration absorption camps, and so he raised my family initially in this little tent alongside the Mediterranean Sea, and my father was born in one of those tents. Now, eventually, the state of Israel gave him a small plot of land where he built a home for my father and his 6 siblings. They only spoke Yemenite Arabic. It was the Arabic they spoke in Yemen mixed with the Hebrew that they learned in the Torah. He raised chickens and goats. He rode a donkey to synagogue every single day. And he wanted his kids to love God as much as he did. But unfortunately, my father, Aharon ben Shalom, had different ideas. When he was 7 years old, he went to the kitchen, he found a knife, and he cut off his peot, which are the long sidelocks worn by religious Jewish boys. And when my grandmother came home, she looked at me and said, which means, what did you do? What did you do? Your dad is going to kill you. My grandfather arrived. He was a very gentle man, so he looked at my father and he said, it's God's will for you to choose your own path. And that is exactly what my dad did. At 11 years old, he left his father's home and moved in with his eldest sister, who was the only Yemenite to be accepted in Kibbutz Sod Yam. Now, my father was raised alongside the young state of Israel, so he wanted to assimilate. So he started listening to American music, Ray Charles and the Beatles. And as he got older, he started falling in love with all of the American women who visited his kibbutz to study Ulpan, like father, like son. Eventually, my father moved to the United States following a woman that he'd fallen in love with. And they broke up, and he found himself alone as a taxi driver in San Francisco. He was desperate to reconnect with his Yemenite roots, so he went out Yemenite dancing. And that's where he met my mom. And I told it went something like this. I'm Marlon from Israel. You are beautiful. Thank you. I'm Laura from New York. Oh, from New York, huh? What you all doing in San Francisco? I'm studying to be a doctor. And you, taxi driver. But soon, your husband. You want 4 kids or 5? My mom was smitten, so much so that they had my older sister, Natalia Liat, and then me, Ari'el Statchel. And when I was growing up, my father filled our home with Yemenite culture. He would cook Yemenite food, malawa,